Welcome to Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite.
Hey guys, Alicia here with Working Dog Radio, Torchlight Canine, and Oil Capital Canine Fund. I'd like to say thank you guys for listening to us for the past 6 years. That would not be possible without you and without our sponsors. We want to say thanks to Ray Allen Manufacturing. They've been a longtime partner of ours. They're friends of ours. We do equipment with them. We use their equipment every day. Ray Allen, the letter K, the number 9, on socials, Ray Allen Canine. Please check them out at rayallen.com. If you guys are looking to go to a conference this year, it has to be none other than HITS Canine Conference. They're going to be in New Orleans, 2024, from August 26th to the 29th. If you guys are interested in going, and you should be, please contact Jeff Barrett at 863-529-5113 or check him out at hits, the letter K, the number 9.net. Everybody wants to feed their dog well, and if you're feeding them kinetic, you are. It takes the guesswork out of it. They've got some new supplements coming, some new flavors coming. We're going to have some previews for you. Please tune in for that. KineticDogFood.com, 513-615-6904. Check them out. American aluminum products save dogs' lives. All of our officers use their canine inserts. They also make some really nice rad crates and a lot of other things, including training aids. Check them out. American Aluminum Accessories on the socials. You can call them toll free, 800-277-0869, or email them for a quote at quotes@aaa-mail.com. Horizon Structures is a one-stop shop for your dog kennels. If you guys are serious about this and you're getting into it, you need space for dogs, give them a call, 888-447-4337. From mild to wild, let your imagination go. They can make it and drop it off at your door. Horizon Structures. And we would really like it if you guys would follow us on our new YouTube, Working Dog Radio YouTube. You're going to be able to see our pretty faces. You're going to be able to see our ads and our guests. We're going to have some really cool training videos. We're going to release podcasts earlier in that avenue. So please join us on our YouTube. We really appreciate you. Thank you for listening.
Working Dog Radio, we are back broadcasting the bite from the Hold the Line Canine Conference here. As always, I am Eric Stambro with Ted Summers, who just I taught this morning. Ted just got done. How'd it go, Ted, in your class?
Good. I was upstairs, did the scenario-based training thing again. Yeah, had some good questions. Everybody wants that document that I have that has all the time on bite stuff on it. And so I sent everybody, don't send me dick pics. If you like, put my phone number up there, I'm like, don't do it. So
we might get one.
You might, exactly. So who do we have with us today?
So with us today is our buddy Todd Mona from Connecticut. He has been a friend of ours for a while. He's been on the podcast before. I wanted to get him on because I've been doing, my tone avoidance seminars all over the country. And one of the first ones I ever did taught was at Todd's place and at a big event he has over in Connecticut every year. And I taught the tone avoidance stuff. And I've taught, if you haven't heard, I've talked about it on this podcast. I talked it on Working Dog Depot with Howard. And I've talked about it on Police Canine Radio with Rich and Greg. And kind of deep dive it in there the way I teach tone avoidance, where tone is a negative marker, followed by stim, where you teach the dog to leave stuff alone, through tone as a warning. And then I use it to create a nice out of a toy and a verbal out of the bite, where it's out, tone, stim paired that way. And then eventually there's no stim and no tone in the out. When I taught it to Todd, he completely ran with it in a little bit different direction, the way he does it. So I wanted to get him on today to talk about how he took it and the way he does it. It's pretty good. It works really, really well.
So I'd like to thank you, first of all, for giving me the balls to actually do it. Because I had heard about it actually here at this conference about 4 years ago, whatever it was. And then watching you and listening to you talk about it and stuff. So what I found amazing is that, and the way I do it is slightly off from yours, but the dog understands and the dog learns that the meaning of tone in the context of which you're training. So if I can give an example so the listeners can understand, this came to me during an exercise, and I teach like obedience, and like I started at about week 5 or 6 in my academy, but they had already been around the e-collar. They already understand that part. So I'm kind of free shaping them a little bit. Everything is off leash a lot in the beginning with my class, but one of the dogs, he was telling him to out the ball. And we had done, I like to work on the table, ball for ball, out for out, and you build up your, to a wedge, to a bite pillow, to a sleeve. So the dog is getting out for out for out. We're just trying to help the dog understand what we're asking. And obviously tone is a big part of that. Right. So what happened was we were doing an obedience exercise, and one of the guys told his dog to out. The dog didn't out, and I toned him. He outed, and he was already ready to. So the dog was shitting on him basically, but the dog had done a couple reps of walking obedience, and what ended up happening was the dog outed, and then he returned to the heel, and we had never asked him to return to the heel. So that's when I was like, that was my aha moment for the collar. I was just like, damn, this value to tone that the dog has, I was just like, is a lot more than what I originally had anticipated and thought it could be. And I know this sounds a little crazy, but like we always were taught, you have that 1 to 2 seconds of timing and reward and punishment and command and punishment. And so I started to play like a little bit of a game. And when we did the same exercise a little bit later, I started counting, and I made it up to about 8 1,000s. And then I hit the tone, and the dog returned to the heel position because he understood in what was going on that we're doing obedience. We're going to start at a heel. And it was just amazing that the dog would not only out the ball, but get back into position without being told so. Because if you held the tone for just a little bit longer than normal, he started to realize this wasn't going away. So I started playing around with it because it was like a trial and error, that first class I did it. So it was just so powerful how it went. And then basically the difference is what we're getting at in this podcast is the difference where is I can't expect every handler to kind of get to the tone button if they're in an aha or like an oh shit moment. So what I started to do is I started to overlay the dog's name with tone. So it has the value. The two are overlaid. And then as time goes on, I start to phase out the tone a little bit. But the beauty of it is that if the dog ever starts to shit on the handler again, you go back to the tone, and it's like almost immediate. They're like, okay, I won't fuck up again. And then you'll kind of just do a variable of the tone and dog's name, and you'll get the same response. And yes, it's a preparatory in a way, but it's okay because the dog is completely understanding it, and it's working to our advantage because you're able to use the e-collar at such low level stims, and you're just like fine tuning them to almost like, perfection in a sense. And there's no conflict with having the out. There's no conflict with the handler because I choose to do it with the leash off. So what we end up doing is whether you're doing bite work or you're just doing ball play or you're doing obedience, when the dog hears his name, he stops fucking around and doing what you don't want him to do. And he kind of already will like take himself and put him back into where you need him to be. And then the beauty of it is like on the opposite end of the spectrum, you could say the dog's name and produce the reward. So like it has so much different meaning to the dog at opposite ends of the spectrum, yet it all works and it makes sense to the dog. That's the part that I can never fully understand unless you got inside a dog's head, if that makes sense to the listeners.
Mm-hmm. So when you're pairing, is it name, tone, and then followed by stim when you're trying to build that in the beginning of it?
Yeah, it's kind of like the e-collar. Like, first you gotta use it to teach the dog, that he's got to turn the pressure off. And then later on you can use it as the correction, right? So it's kind of like the same way with the tone. I was like, I'd start to use it, and then we would, if not, there'd be a correction, but then eventually it's just tone. It's just crazy how fast it goes, and you can get away with using stim much, like 10 times faster than if you ever just use the e-collar by itself.
Hey guys, Alicia with Working Dog Radio here again. I wanted to take a moment to talk about one of our newest sponsors, someone that we are super, super happy with and glad to have aboard, somebody that we have known since they literally got into the game. Aiden and Jesse from Rex Specs literally made a product so that they could enjoy life with their dog. Their dog suffered from panis and they wanted to take their dog skiing. And they went out and they made goggles that fit their dog. And now they make products for your dog, my dog, and everybody's dog. And we've watched them grow, and we are so proud of them and proud to know them. All their products are American made. They are supporting us who support them. These goggles are UV protectant. They protect your dog's eyes from dust, from particles, from anything that could get in the way if you take your dog to the range. One of the products that Ted and I use most often is their Ear Pro. They have Canine Ear Pro. It pulls over your dog's head and it protects their ears. So if you go to the range, you're doing gunfire acclimation, whatever you're doing, those things work great. They have leashes. They have all kinds of cool stuff. You really need to check them out. And we are very glad to have them aboard and very proud of their products. We do have some. We will give some away. Keep watching for us. If you check them out on the socials, it's at Rex Specs, SPECS, the letter K, the number 9, and also rexspecs.com. If you use the discount code Working Dog Radio, all one word and all lowercase, you'll get 20% off your first order.
So when you're teaching that out of the toy or out of the, say, the decoy, is it name and tone followed by out stim, or does the name or tone become the out?
It all depends. So like I'll do the tone first because I teach tone first. So as soon as tone starts, then they'll start to say their name. And I do probably do a little bit in excess in the beginning. So I'll let them say the dog's name like 2 or 3 times. And then by like the end of the week, we're at tone one dog's name or just the dog's name once, and then bang, it happens. So, and eventually, like I said, we just variable it up to kind of proof it that tone still works and the dog's name still works. And then from there, we can, by the time we hit the road, we should just be able to say the dog's name, and it has that same value as tone.
So they'll do the name is the tone warning on the out.
Yes. And what's crazy is it, like I said a little while ago, it has just as good of value to the dog when it's time to get a reward. So that's what's weird too.
Yeah. I haven't even messed with that. So one thing I was kind of fooling around with just because I watched a dog one time was doing down tone stim over and over again, so that when you put the dog in a down and he goes to get up, you hit tone, he goes back. Like he remembers the last command. Is that kind of how yours is working?
100%. And that's what was so groundbreaking for me, is that when you were doing, or when I was doing it and I was counting the 1,000s, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, and the dog was making the conscious decision on his own to do the last thing you asked. So whether it was out, and he finally outs, and then he's already moving to the next step in the evolution. Like, granted, the dog is understanding what we're doing in training, but he's kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And I think that's directly correlated with not using stim, because the tone is avoiding stim if the dog can do what you want to do or ask him to do. So it kind of clears up, and there's no conflict there. There's no, tactile that is coming from the collar, so to speak. And then he can just, he's a little bit more clear-headed to be able to do what he needs to do, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
When I use tone, they understand a verbal out, and I use tone because they're lagging on me a little bit, it opens their mouth. Saying their name does the same thing?
Yes, absolutely.
So you're like when your mom is pissed at you and she tells you to do something, and then she says your first and middle name. Now you fucking know.
Sure.
You better put it down. Now, Ted, I see you sent me a lot of videos of you doing the vibrate function on the dog tree e-collar. But what I see from your work is a dog in another room in the dark, and then vibrate is the silent out from a distance. Is that how you teach it?
Yeah, we start with teaching vibration avoidance for outing. And eventually I don't do it in a sense, like I don't load the vibration the same way that like tone is loaded, that like you talk about, where they're like walking around a room and like toning off of things. And so eventually what it becomes is recall. I need you to spit out whatever's in your mouth and just come back to me. Right. So eventually vibrate just means out and recall. And in reality, if we're outing a dog on the street, like if they're in a building, or if you're outing the dog, like from a vehicle extraction or whatever it is, even if he's on leash, there's not very many situations where I could think where it would be a good idea to leave the dog there. Like, obviously we've asked the dog to come back because it's a safety concern or because it's something to do with us the team not being ready to move into arrest or not feeling like it's safe or whatever. So regardless, we've got to have the dog back. We have an unsearched suspect, an unsecured suspect. So if he outs, he's got to come back. So it just then becomes just come back to me. So we teach the out with the vibration avoidance, and then I layer on the recall, just like we do with the silent recalls with pet dogs or with the vibration stuff, and the same thing with tone. Like one tone, if you listen to the episode we did with you where we talk about it, you do one tone precedes a correction, and then a long tone is a recall. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same thing. So if they're deep in a building and they're biting someone, or if they're deep in a building and they're searching, they give us an alert on the door, they're quiet, vibrate, dog comes back. And so it serves both purposes, an out and a recall. And if they can't recall unless they out. So
true.
I mean, it's kind of like those dudes that only do muzzle work. And I'm like, how do you teach an out? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you have to bite to out. Well, you have to out to recall. So it just becomes a recall. We just build a behavior chain. And
so when you're doing that, is it a short, then longer, and distance wise? I mean,
I start with a known recall, right? So what we'll do, we'll do one of two things. We'll have a dog that has a stable down at a distance, and then we're like, dog name here. And as soon as we say dog name, and as soon as we say here, we layer on vibration, right? And vibration stays until they get to the correct heel position, right? If they don't get to the correct heel position, vibration comes off, slight nick, low level stim, nick, push them into position, down, right? Whatever. So then we kind of run through the same protocol that Todd just described, where we start phasing out dog name here and I vary it. So it's dog name here, vibrate all the way back. And then it is just dog name here, vibrate all the way back. And then it's just vibrate all the way back. And on the first couple of reps, and the first couple of sessions on reps, when they recall, we usually use a much higher reward value for the silent recall, right? So then I'm pairing the reward with the recall under that condition, and which quickly goes away to help reinforce and speed it up. And then I phase that out as well. So then it just becomes, I can do either or, like Todd said, we can use his name, and or if it's an oh shit situation and I can't hit my button, I can just say his name and he'll come back too. So it's the same.
So the reward is a tug, maybe a ball or something.
Food depends on food. I mean, so we can do food if we get dogs. I'm really hesitant about doing too many reps of recalls to toys because they build that and then they expect to come back and get rewarded. And if they're coming back in drive, right? I don't want the recall to be so fucking hot that they come back at Mach 10 expecting to get rewarded and expecting to have interaction with the handler, right? So in an actual deployment, like if we're standing on that door over there and I need the dog out here, I need him back to me down, and we've all got guns in our hands, and I don't want him rolling up expecting to to have a tug and snag somebody's Glock or snag somebody standing there. So I'll typically then make the handler do 2 or 3 heel steps and then require like a little bit of focus and then reward that. So we build a bridge a little bit so that, because I mean, I've seen a lot of work of handlers outing dogs to come back to toys. And
what happens when they don't have the toy?
Yeah. And so I like to, and I'm doing it just to let the dog know, because in the initial phases, what you want to be careful of is because that vibration or that tone has been paired with a correction in the past. So we are asking the dog to, in his mind, I think, be willfully non-compliant. He knows he's not supposed to break it down unless he's recalled. So we have to give the same weight to the vibration on the collar as it comes from our voice. So I use the reward history on rewarding a silent recall on that vibration to build an accurate picture for the dog that this also means the same thing and you're not going to get corrected. So I not create conflict and not create confusion. That goes away pretty quickly. Like then it's just like a couple, I mean, it takes, I don't know, 4-ish days, maybe 30, 40 reps of rewarding with variability, right? It's not like every single time, but then after that, it's usually pretty solid.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to us for the past 6 years. It would not be possible without our sponsors. And one of our longest time sponsors, in fact, our longest time sponsor, is Tactical Police Canine, Aaron and Jason Ferguson. They are amazing. They've been amazing to us, and they are amazing to this industry. They have a new online series that is for law enforcement only. And law enforcement guys, you know how important it is to keep up on your practices and your education. This one is for you. It's a canine criminal interdiction series, and it is literally for you guys to expand your knowledge on canine usage during traffic stops and interdiction work. It's going to cover things like roadside interview techniques, identifying traps and hidden compartments, related case law and record keeping strategies. You name it, it is in this course and you need to have it. If you go to their website, tacticalpolicecaninetraining.com, and you use their discount code NARC, all caps, you will get 20% off any of their online courses. Check them out. Dogtra. We use so many Dogtra products that it's hard to even tell you where we begin. All of our canine get a Dogtra e-collar. We use the 1900 black, and all of our pets get a 200C. All of our canines use bark collars. We have their ball training systems. We've even bought a quail launcher from them. We use bungee collars. You name it. If it goes on your dog's neck, we get it at Dogtra. Dogtra has been great to us through the years. We love their sponsorship. We love their products. I order them every single week. If you go to dogtra.com, you can use the discount code WDR10. You'll get 10% off a single item over $200. You can also check out Dogtra Official for their socials and follow them there and see what other products that they're coming out with, because they innovate every day. Dogtra.com. Rex-Specs Canine. I'm so excited that these guys came aboard. I stalked them for years. Yes, I did, and unapologetically so. They make amazing products. I love nothing more than seeing a tiny little Chihuahua wearing the googly eye Rex-Specs. But they don't just make fun products. They make serious products that actually help dogs. These Rex-Spec goggles have a UV rating of 400. They keep the UV rays off of your dog's eyes. They also protect your dog from getting debris, dust, dirt, sticks, seeds, rocks, anything in their eyes. And then something that Ted and I use at the kennel every single week without fail is Rex-Specs Ear Pro. You slide it over the dog's head. It's easy to use. And most importantly, it actually protects your dog's hearing. You guys can check them out. If you have a search and rescue dog, a pet dog, an active dog, a service dog, a hunting dog, go to rexspecs.com, check out all their products. Rex-Specs Canine on the socials. If you use Working Dog Radio, all lowercase, on their website as a discount code, you will get 20% off. American Aluminum has been in business since 1992. They have been making so many things for law enforcement. It is not even funny. They make great things for the canine industry, such as canine inserts that actually saves dogs' lives in wrecks, and much, much more. I don't know if you guys listened to the episode on Canine Corporal, but please do so. It is an amazing episode that really talks about the value of what their products do. American Aluminum makes things that you might not even know that they make, like inmate transport systems, canine training aids, canine inserts, contraband containment, animal control systems, and the list goes on. American Aluminum makes great products here in America, and it is a fantastic company to get to know. You can call them at 800-277-0869. You can get a quote if you go to quotes at aaa-mail.com and ask them for a quote. They will be glad to oblige. Please tell them that we sent you. Arnaud at ALM Canine Equipment has been one of our longest time friends. 13 years ago, Arnaud made a suit for Ted. We call it his Whoopee, and he still has this suit, and it is still the only suit that he wears. We have had this thing re-sleeved about 6 times. It's ridiculous. It smells like a dead body, and he wears it all the time, much to my chagrin. But it is just a testament to how amazing of a product that Arnaud makes. He comes up with his own color combinations. You can get something custom. He hand sews it. Reach out to him at almcanineequipment.com. Check him out on Instagram at almcanineequipment. If you guys need a canine containment system, otherwise known as a kennel, if you need one or you need many you need to reach out to Horizon Structures. Horizon makes anything that you can think of from mild to wild. You can customize their kennels from the ground up. And the best part is when they are done, they will drive it to your location. They will set it on your pad and you plug this thing in and it is ready to add dogs to immediately. Anything that you can think of in a kennel, Horizon Structures can make it happen. We've seen them. They are beautiful. If you go to Horizon Structures and check them out on the socials, if you can call them 888-447-4337 or check them out online, horizonstructures.com. They always have something cool going on. Thank you guys so much. Stay tuned. We have so many amazing things happening.
So when you're doing it out from the decoy back to you, do you ever have the decoy walk in and reward the dog next to you, the handler back from where he's at? Or is it a resend?
I'll play the bouncing decoy game, which to those listening don't know what that is we have two decoys and the handler's in the middle. And we'll ask the dog to send to a bite, out, recall, or maybe out and come back and then go past the handler to the next decoy, which is basically it's 2-ball with people. Yeah. And then we'll vary even there. Dog name, no vibration, recall. And the next one will be silent. And then, so we'll have like little cards that will hold up. Like if one of my trainers is holding up a card that has 1 on it, that means verbal. They do another one where they write V and then they write T for verbal and tone, or vibration and tone. They have 2 separate ones that they set up depending on which color we're using, but they'll hold a card up and the handler will be like tone, vibrate, recall, and then both. Then they'll say do it both at the same time. So with 3 minutes, you can do 8 to 10 bites, 8 to 10 reps on the bouncing decoy game and vary both recalls, vibration only, voice only, and then both together again. And you can vary it and you can reward each one as a bite, but that's usually towards the other portion. Then we layer it on with a recall. So we do the whole recall protocol thing, like the stops attack or the call off or whatever you want to call it. We send the dog for a bite, slick floors. And if the dog is pretty good on the recall, we'll just dog name here, vibrate, in the same section. Usually what we'll do is somebody else will run the collar for the handler and we know when to apply it. And then we run the same procedure again. So as soon as he sends, right. And when you hear Justin Rigney talk about it, and we've talked about it before too, auditory exclusion is a thing. That's one thing that I think is really good about this is for a call off. Like once the dog is locked, he's in prey lock. Like if you listen to Bradshaw talking about it, he's in prey lock, he's going, he may not hear, or if he does, he's not processing it. But now I've got 2 things, dog name here, I've got vibrate, and I've got recall at the same time that I can then override auditory exclusion for a dog that's got vapor prey lock.
Well, I bet the dog to vibrate brings them fuckers back fast.
Yeah.
Strong. Now, Todd, real quick before we're done. So everybody understands when you're teaching this, when you're got it, right? You've been working it. It's going good. You tell the dog to out. He does it. You say his name. What happens if he doesn't out on his name?
It depends what stage I'm at. So like if it's a dog that's out of the academy and everything, and he knows the shit, he's just fucking around, then yeah, we're going to go right to a correction. During the academy, you got to be more lenient. It's just like, raising kids, you got to, and every dog's different. Like if a dog's just maybe he's perfect all the time or looking good for you all the time. And then maybe this one time he's like, nah, I'm really doing good in this fight here. I don't want to leave it. Maybe I offer him the tone before I go to the correction. It's a balance, just like with every dog,
And you can tell once you're doing this a lot, you can see when the dog's close or when they're kind of slow rolling you a little bit. A lot of those I'll slap them with a little bit of stim to open their mouth up, and the next rep is always a little bit cleaner. Did you find doing this, you went from, higher stims to a pretty routinely lower stims on dogs?
Yeah.
Or is it dependent?
Overall, if you want to kind of just make it easier to understand, overall drastically reduced it. I was using the collar way more before tone, way more. And then of course, we had talked about this in the past, different collars, have like a different pattern based on their, the way one's a push, one's a pull, and nothing was like one guy would have this collar, another guy would have a different brand, and then you'd be playing around. So basically I'm on the same collar now. I know it very well, and that's how I do it. It's going to be, some dogs get the tone. Some dogs have to go right to stim because they know it and now they're shitting on me. Or, just like you said, the dog's a little sticky, maybe give them a little flick, it's out, and then it's good. So it is a balance, but that's basically in a nutshell how I'll get around that problem. But overall, way less collar work. And they're just so much more clear. You're not getting that dog that gets lost in and
the fog of power, really.
Yeah. And I rarely hear a dog whine on a bite anymore. Like rarely, like their vocals are almost gone.
Yeah.
And if there is a vocal, it's because of previous bad training that's stuck around. It's like programmed in them to fucking whine and scream on the bite because they're preparing for an out. And then that's just all stuff that goes away.
We, in this conversation, like the problem you mentioned, Eric, is a generalization problem, right? Like when we tell a dog to sit, like you hear people all the time like, oh, he's great at home, like for pet dogs anyway. But when I take him out in public, he does this. So it's a generalization problem in terms of like, I understand like here means to perform the known behavior. But when some of the context changes, either we're off leash or the handler's out of sight or the distance is greater, there's some metric in the dog's mind that has changed. It's a generalization problem. The dog has demonstrated that he understands the behavior, but he's also demonstrating that he doesn't generalize the behavior in that context. And this method, both vibration and tone, cleans it up a lot. And where I find it is the dogs, like, they don't 100% know how the e-collar works. They just know, like, at first they learn, they're like, okay, you can control me from a distance, right? Like even without the leash. But then they're under the impression that it's like, just because you can't see me, right? So then we get a little further, and we've dealt with that a lot. And I literally, what I'll do is give the remote to the decoy, and we'll yell loud enough, dog name here. They're literally, my decoy or we'll have somebody in the room, like in a closet or something. We're peering through the thing where we're running the remote, and the handler is out of sight of the dog is out of sight of the handler. Dog still thinks that it's being run, but he's like, then it helps the generalization process much better. I've seen it 1,000 times at HRDs where the dogs will out magnificently if they're on a line, or if they think the handler is close enough to see them do it, right? Like if he's like, yo, if you don't see me do it, then how can you correct me? So, I mean, that's the humanized version of it. But this way, the generalization comes very quickly because they're like, oh, you can see through walls, and now you can see what I'm doing it all the time.
One of the reasons I really started doing the tone stuff was I just got tired of being high stim, dogs up in the 80s, 90s, 100s, 6 high, 7 high on the Garmins. And when I go around the country teaching this stuff, I always ask people, okay, so give me a guess. What's your guess when we start to out the ball? Give me your guess. I think he's going to be a 5 high. And by the end of the session, we're at maybe a 2 low, we're trying to get there, or maybe in the teens on the dog trial, or nothing really, honestly, nothing. Like the last stim we give them is a lower stim. And I do find, just like you said, the dogs get quieter and they will accept it. If they slow roll you and you have to tap stim, they'll accept it's fair. Because you did tell them out, and they're like, yeah, I wanted you to make me, you made me cool. So that's what we're talking about. So if you're out there listening and you are like, man, I'm just fucking smoking this dog on the collar all the time, and we got a lot of problems. You walk up on the dog and the dog's spinning away from you on the decoy and all these other problems, and you're obsessing over this verbal out, and you find yourself high stim and screaming, the dog lets go, goes all the way to the end of the bite and just holds on and screams. Contact me, Ted, Todd, where we do this. We teach this all over the place. We'll go anywhere, for this type of stuff. If you like the way I do it, if Todd's way sounds perfect for you, or the way Ted does, because you're rocking that dog trick collar, give him a call, man. We can, and guys, it doesn't take months or weeks. You can get this going in days.
The other thing that you mentioned that I want to say is like how negative reinforcement, how attempting to use the collar to, like, if you're heavy-handed with it and try to burn the dogs off and your timing is bad, you end up negatively reinforcing non-compliance. So we tell the dog out and he doesn't out, and he times the collar out, and now we've just created the seatbelt problem where
you just learn to hold on, and then it feels good when he stops.
So now we've created, a negative reinforcement and the release of the pressure for non-compliance.
Mm-hmm. So
the way to do this is not slap the collar on the dog and plug him in like a Christmas tree until he outs.
Yeah, actually, and there's a lot of dogs in my group that were e-collar completely different before I went to tone. So I think a lot of handlers out there like might listen and go, hey, I'm just going to put the dog on the bite and we're going to figure this out and we're going to use tone. It's like, no, you got to take all the steps backwards and maybe go to a tie out or on a bite box or something to that effect, and just working on a very low valued item. So, maybe for one dog, it's the ball. Maybe for one dog, it's a pillow or a tug, whatever it is, just start very low value. Don't start on the man is what we're trying to say, and just get your reps in till the dog just starts to figure it out. And then he's literally outing on his name or tone or both. And then from there, the progression is up the value. So that's how I do my classes. I start very, very low. I start with 2 guys, 2 balls, and then I go to 1 guy, which is, I usually don't like using the handler. Cause I want him to make the way to the decoy. So it's neither here nor there, but then you move to the tug, start with the ball, move to the tug again, 2 guys with the tug, then 1 guy with the tug. And then, go to the bite pillow, 2 guys, then 1 guy. And then you're on 2 sleeves, 1 sleeve. And then you're on 2 decoys with the suit. And you're on 1 guy with the suit. Before you know it, that's only taken like a day or 2 and your dog is outing. You should be able, if you're not dropping 30, 40 points on your Dogtra or like 3 or 4 on your Garmin, you're doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. But that's the results.
Sucks.
That's the results you can expect and should see if you do this right. So, and again, the only reason I choose to overlay it is just because I'm still out on the road working a dog and I don't have the best coordination all the time. And there's no way in an oh fuck moment that I'm going to be able to get to my button, So, I mean, that was just my train of thought of kind of doing it. And I always I liked having value to my dog's names ever since my first dog. So, I just figured it would go together pretty well. It has made leaps and bounds for me in terms of how fast I can get things done. And I think it can work for 99.9% of the guys out there and girls out there.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. This was I've been doing so many of these that this was a perfect timing on this to talk about other ways to work it, but still the same, scientific concept. So, that's it, guys. Check out the show notes on the advertisements. Our, discount codes are in there and we're going to record some more. So we'll see you coming from South Carolina. Bye-bye.
You got your reasons, I got my wants. Still got that feeling, but I'm too old to die young now.
Working Dog Radio was graciously granted permission to use this music by Brother Deeg. Be sure to check him out at brotherdeeg.blogspot.com. That's spelled brother, DEGE.blogspot.com. Be sure to buy him a beer at Amazon, iTunes, or CD Baby, or anywhere you stream your music. Working Dog Radio was edited and co-produced by Alicia Brandt.